It's Curtis, yours this morning?
Good morning. My lead is related to Kevin O'Connor, basketball reporter for Ringer and other places. And he had this to say about the potential trade of Jaylen Brown and Derrick White.
What is this trade value? What does that look like?
I think it's massive. I do. Like, think about Houston, for example. If they wanted to reunite Ime Udoka with Jaylen Brown, they don't get Giannis Antetokounmpo. If the Houston Rockets on draft night come calling with the number 10 pick, Fred VanVleet's contract, which will only have 1 year left after his team option kicks in, and a bunch of other high-value future picks. They have Suns future first-rounders, among other teams as well. If you're the Celtics, I would think you at least have to listen to that offer if Houston comes calling with that. But it's the same thing for a guy like Derrick White. If the Golden State Warriors, if they were to call up and offer a Mikal Bridges-esque package, 4 first-round draft picks for Derrick White, you gotta listen. And so those are the paths I can't stop thinking about with the Celtics, even though the easiest thing to do is to come back, as Phil said, Derrick White, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown in the 26-27 season and roll it back and try to win again. That's the easiest path for sure.
So, I believe strongly today, May 22nd, 2025, that we have seen the last of Jaylen and Jayson on the same team.
Ooh.
The Houston idea makes perfect sense. Reunite with Ime. No state tax. And the downside next year, let's say the Celtics go 30-52 next year. It's an awful year. Mm-hmm. And Jaylen Brown struggles. And Wiggy's right. When he's the alpha, it's a totally different story. He's going to have the best defenders. The offense is going to run through him, and he's not as talented as Jason Tatum. Then what do? Then the world sees he's not worthy of this return, and you're kind of SOL. So obviously Brad Stevens will listen to every trade offer. That's what GMs do. I don't know if it'll be now or later, but if I were Brad Stevens, I would think long and hard about it.
However, the two of them together have won a title.
Yep.
So
and they also lost to an inferior Heat and an inferior Knicks team.
You could cobble things together for a season, anticipating that the two of them coming back, they will be what they were last season when they were able to win a title.
But if you go with that idea, you're not going to have the same team around them. Right? If you wait for, like he said, Jaylen Brown, Derrick White, and Jason Tatum in the 2026 season, you're not going to have Drew Holiday. You're not going to have Porzingis. You probably might still have Pete Pritch. You won't have Al Horford. So what does that team look like for you when Tatum does come back?
Well, it could be a down season next year, but not as down as if you don't have Jaylen Brown. And I hear what Curtis is saying, where like if you keep him and he doesn't live up next season, it could be a disappointment. But I think that he's going to get a pass next season. I think the fact that Jason Tatum's not there, nobody's expecting this team to be back to championship caliber. I mean, I hope.
But Curtis is right. He's kind of exposed. Like if he can't carry this
the trade value is what would go down.
Yeah.
Trade value.
And the other thing is, when Brad Stevens did the year-end presser, it's what he didn't say. When he was asked about the contracts and the second apron and all that, he said, clearly this is something we're going to have to evaluate, and we'll get together and do that. At no point did he say Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum are Celtics as long as I'm in charge.
Yeah. All right, Curtis, thank you.
All right, good morning. So I'm going to kind of jump into the world of Curtis's lead a little bit because I heard Brad Stevens say this a couple days ago, and Curtis kind of brought it up at the exit conference. And talking about the CBA and that they knew it was coming for a few years and the whole, getting under the second apron and all that other stuff. So the question that I'm asking, he's talking about this knowing that it's coming, but I wonder how much Chisholm has to say about all of the stuff that's going on with the penalties and the payroll now that he's the new owner, because Brad is like, oh, we saw this coming. We're preparing for it. But what if the new owner has a different plan? And when
he's the owner now.
Okay, so you think we see him enact that new plan potentially this summer? Or
he's the one whose wallet is on the line on things.
Right, but it doesn't make it seem like it is, right? Because they're always talking about, we knew about this, we were preparing for this. Like, it almost seems like Brad and Wick are all talking about, oh, we knew this and we're preparing, and I just wonder where Chisholm falls into that now that he is the new owner.
Huh. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because it doesn't, what if he comes in and he says, you know what? I'm a Jaylen Brown fan.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to move on from
right.
him. Or, you know what? I think that we can get a lot for Jaylen Brown.
I think Bill Chisholm is a big fan of money, like everybody in that position, more than anything else.
All right.
That's all he cares about.
I mean, it's figuring out the bottom line. He's a guy that was in private equity. I think he bought the team, and he wants to maximize the investment, and he will do whatever it takes to get there.
But I think he probably has to look at next season without Jason Tatum.
Right.
And figure out what is going on there so that they're not, like, the place isn't empty and they're not losing money. You know what I mean? I mean, that you have to want to make money your first season with the thing, so.
Well, that is going to be, because even if, like, Curtis's lead where you moved on from, let's say, Drew Holiday and Porzingis, right? And you brought Derrick White and Jaylen Brown back. Is that a team that people are gonna, like, at the beginning of the season feel like, all right, super confident in with?
No, I don't think they're gonna feel super confident.
Right, and the expectations are not gonna be high. So aren't people gonna kind of not necessarily check out, but next year being like, all right, it's kind of a throwaway year, and we're really like, who was the guy that you did the thing for, Curtis? The audio you played, what was his name?
Kevin O'Connor.
Like where he says they're really more focused on the 2026 season. So does the owner go, all right, it's a throwaway year, and let's figure out how we could save money the best way to really focus on 2026?
You mean you're talking about 2026, 2027.
Right.
Yeah.
The next season is 25 and 26.
Yeah, the 2026, 2027 season.
And I think what they should do is either bring it back basically intact or offload Jaylen Brown, begin the process of ripping the Band-Aid off and reestablishing the roster for when Tatum's healthy.
What do you think Jason Tatum wants? Do you think he wants Jaylen Brown to remain here?
I think so.
I don't think he's too worried either way.
Yeah.
Really? Okay.
I don't think they hate each other. That was overblown, but I don't think they're close.
I think the bigger question is, what does Jaylen Brown want to do? Or what would he want?
You think they're asking him?
I
think they would ask Jason Tatum.
Would he want to come back and play second fiddle to Tatum?
Well, he already has.
But is that what he really wants? Or would he be open to, like Curtis said, if you trade him to...
I don't think he wants to be traded. Every time it's come up, he's been upset about it.
Well, because it's insulting to be in trade talks.
Right. Yeah.
I don't think people are interested in that. What I think, excited by it, but what I think is if this roster is going to it's not going to remain where it is. And we're going to look back, I think, sadly, in 20 years at the fork in the road of Tatum's injury. Because there might have been the thought, give it a go next year, even if they lose to the Knicks. But with the uncertainty of Tatum's future and the need to rebuild this roster, I feel like Brad Stevens would be silly not to entertain trade talks for Jaylen Brown.
And you heard Jaylen Brown on Celtic City talk about how they booed him and, like, his frustration with the fans. Like, so you don't think that if he was traded to Houston, what do you think Houston fans would be saying? That's the guy. That's our alpha. This is his team. You don't think that he might want some of that because he already has his championship, knowing that if he comes back, he's here next year. When Tatum comes back, he then moves back to kind of playing second fiddle where
Beta as opposed to alpha.
Yeah,
and you could get like a mansion for $500,000 in Houston.
Oh, yeah, that money in Houston will go a long way. But that's why I would say I wonder if Jaylen Brown would be all for if they said, hey, we got a package to send you to Houston. Do you want to go?
Go somewhere where you're going to be the guy. You're going to be the superstar. Yeah, maybe he does want that. I don't know. It doesn't seem like he does. Because it seems like he loves Boston. It seems like he's really invested in what he does in the community. But
he could still do that. But when you hear him talking, I agree with Curtis on some of the things. He loves being involved in the community because he is a great guy. But I don't know if he loves the fans the way we think he does, because I don't know if he feels the love from them, like he should.
Yeah.
I just have one question on the second apron talk. Prior to Wick Grossbeck calling in when we were at Wachusett, how many people that listen and engage with this show said it was a fait accompli that the Celtics were going to unload stars this offseason?
Oh, I was
not
on board
many,
with it.
Not many.
No, nobody talked about it until Wick brought it up.
Oh, yeah.
Nobody
Once Wick
said
brought it up.
So